the HBCUs, the black universities, they were broke, because no one was giving them any money. No one wanted to educate black people after the Civil War, except for a few select philanthropists, many of whom who despised the institution of slavery but had no intention of treating black people as equal. So in order to take the reins for themselves, they organized these singing groups who went around the country, and a couple went to England, and they performed these songs, but they had to do it in an acceptable way to white people. And so that stuff has no integrity to it. So in order to make the most money, they had to give white people what they thought white people wanted.
Do you know that telling a story is one of the most powerful ways to connect with your audience? Do you know that the human brain processes story much more easily and quickly than facts and figure? Stories are a great way to engage your audience, get them interested in your products and services, and inspire them to take action. A good story will help you create more compelling content that can be shared on social media or through other channels. And it's not just about telling a compelling story, it's also about knowing how to tell it effectively. Now, do you want to better connect with your audience? Then join us on our online training class, Storytelling for Content Creators and Digital Entrepreneurs. Come to obehiair14.com/storytelling and learn how to leverage your storytelling skill to earn more as a content creator and digital entrepreneur. Storytelling is a powerful way to connect with your audience, so let's explore it together. See you in the class.
Which was at our own detriment. The same with, so they did that and they made lots of money, but that music has no integrity. And outside the HBCU systems, no one sings that music anymore because it's corny, it's silly. It has no, the stuff that people were singing on plantations was much better, much more culturally sovereign, much more real, because they were truly in a position of no way, trying to find a way, begging a merciful God to help them find a way, right? Fast forward a few years into the 1890s, when you get black composers who can make a living just writing a song down and selling it as sheet music, to a ravenous public who had recently been exposed to the ragtime piano tradition that black people had developed in houses of ill repute in bars in places like New Orleans and in Chicago and such. But they had to make a sanitized version of it for white consumption. And so the very first one who was really successful with that was a man named Ernest Hogan, who went by the moniker, the Unbleached American. So in essence, he was showing he was black, right? Because he's unbleached. But his first real hit was called All Coons Look Alike to Me. And it has all the hallmarks of a minstrel song, and it was a huge hit among white people. And, it earned like $200,000 in royalties, within the first 2 years. It was composed and sold in 1895, and it made him a very wealthy man. And so much so that it created like a kind of a gold rush of composers who were composing in this style to make money off of the fad of white people consuming these coon songs, black people and white people. So you would get black composers making these songs because it was better to do that than working on somebody's farm or digging ditches, because you could record a piece, sell it, and make royalties off of it. So your piece, like something you did a year ago, could make money for you. You know what I mean? It was the first time that black people could really do that, make money off their own intellectual property, but it had to be done in a way that was acceptable to white people. And so that process of finding a way to make a black cultural expression that was sellable and acceptable and also consumable, because if white people who couldn't understand syncopation, where I have all these examples of where Williams and Walker are traveling and the orchestras refuse to play the music, saying that it's beneath them because it's jungle music or nigger music, they would call it. But really, rhythmically and harmonically, it was too complicated, and they couldn't admit that they didn't know what to do. that this black sensibility was beyond their understanding, right? So if I don't understand it, there must be something wrong with it. Not that, oh, this thing that black people are doing is new. I better get on the ball with this. This is hip. There were a few white people who did that, but the vast majority were like, no, it has to come to me. So they were dumbing it down. Just like with Fisk, they were dumbing down the black plantation musical experience. The earliest ragtime composers were dumbing it down to make it consumable to white people. So ragtime is lived by black people, the real piano professors who played in the bars and the houses of ill repute and whatnot. Their experience and their ability to improvise in the moment and to just deal, because if you didn't do the music right, like if the prostitute coming down the stairs who needs to shake herself a certain way to get money from these patrons, if she can't shake it right to make some money, you ain't gonna make no money. Or if you play something wrong in the bar and someone decides that they had bad luck in the crap game because they couldn't focus on the game because of what you were playing, you might get cut. So you have to play with integrity. You got to have the ability to live in the moment and to improvise and to deal with the impermanence of the situation to get the most out of it. You don't get that if you're reading it off a sheet of paper, particularly if it's been made easy for you. So you would get these white people who get this music, this black music that's written on a page, and it's exact. It has to be done exactly as it was on the page. And there's no improvising. There's no changing. There's no, this is how they do it in this city. This is how they do it in that city. This is how I do it. Or how a ragtime piece, if done properly, is not played the same way twice. Like, that's boring. Why would you do it that way? Only Europeans do that way. But then once it's written down on a page, it became static. And it ruined things going forward. It made it harder for really potent black people to be potent, because if the vast majority of black music is kowtowing and you come up with something that is real soulful and radical, they're going to try to destroy you because you're not doing it right. And going forward, that's how black innovators have been treated. John Coltrane was told that he played bad. Lester Young was told that he was a bad musician because he didn't sound like the black music that white people had heard before. Ahmad Jamal, who was the standard of creative excellence for piano trios, was told that he played bad because he didn't sound like Oscar Peterson, who the white people liked, right? These are people who are, John Coltrane is the pinnacle of black musical creativity and sovereignty, but he had a difficult time because he did not adhere to what white people thought the music would be. There's a funny interview with one of the musicians from Third World. I can't remember his name off the top of my head. He's the light-skinned fella, play guitar, where someone asked him, this is in Jamaica. They asked him, asked him about how, difficulties that he's had as a musician in the music industry. And he says, playing it straight out, things didn't get difficult until white people got involved, because third world style of reggae brought in jazz and brought in R&B, and their music was really, it was real danceable. Like, you could play it in the club, and it was reggae, but still it had all these other examples, these other elements to it, with the way they use harmony. They didn't use the same amount of space that you hear in reggae. It was really heavily orchestrated. And so these white journalists who were using Bob Marley and the Wailers as their reference decided that's what real reggae is, and this other thing is different and therefore deficient because it's not something I recognize. And so for him to say, like, who are these people to decide with their pen what is and what is not real reggae? Because, Ken Booth and Bob Marley, Stevie Wonder, all these people think it's real hip. They love our music. So who is this white person who has no cultural authority or knowledge? Who are they to say with their pen that what I do is not reggae? Like I come out of the hood. I come out of the ghetto. What ghetto do you come out of where they make music? And they don't have any frame of reference. So who are they to tell me this? And so those are the same people who told me that my sound was too traditional, right? And so for a lot of Africans, when they would come here, they would see how white people would behave with this audacity. And they would like, what is going on? It's like, that is welcome to America, man. They have their cake and they eat it too. That's how they roll, man. So it's either, what are we going to do about this? or you have to get gone because it's not going to change unless we do something to create a critical mass. Let's band together and make this happen. And so the commodification of it, because it has to be acceptable, means that the very top tier, the best stuff that makes it beautiful, the stuff that recognizes the pain and the struggle, the beauty that comes out of the hate, is completely ignored. By the same token, music was broken up into categories. At the very beginning of the record industry was maybe 10, 15 years old when they did that, where they had Western classical, which is the pinnacle. You had the hit parade, which is all the popular music, which is marches, classical bass sort of things, and like sentimental love songs and whatnot, and even some minstrel stuff. Then you had race music, which was music that was made by Black people, that was designed to be sold to Black people because no one wanted to deal with Black music. And then there was also hillbilly music, which was music that was made by poor white people to be sold to poor white people, that was so close to the music made by poor Black people because of their proximity to each other that respectable white people didn't want anything to do with it.